reserved asset. Hello, in this second video, a little illustration of how the Toro network works. We'll be taking a bit of a look at how the network members that mine the blocks, that process blocks, the incentives for them on this network. They receive the transaction fees that are set up on the network, and that's where much of their benefit exists, as explained in the first video. In addition, as network node members, they are able to participate in some of the governing decision making that takes place on the platform. Some of the activities that are put up to governing members is rules, enforcing the rules for new members. So they vote on new members, they vote on amount of reserves that each network member will be allowed to put in. And also in the area of network block generation, Toro is a staked network where the consensus amongst all participants on a new block is based on the stake of each member. So there is trust, right? Any network node member can mine a block once they join the network, but they're limited in terms of the total transaction value on the block they mine to by how much they have staked over a 2-week span. For instance, if a node member has put in from their own contribution in joining the network, if they put in 100,000 Toros into the reserve, then they can begin to mine blocks, basically generate blocks as transactions come in. And if the transaction first block they mine is worth 10,000 Toros, they will be able to mine that, generate that block, and then generate another block. But over 2 weeks, a 2-week rolling window, those are also parameters of the network. Over a 2-week window, they will not be able to mine more than the amount that they have reserved. This 2-week window allows all network node participants to take a look at the transactions over that time, kind of a self-audit. The network self-audits itself. Much of what the attention will be paid to will be really mostly the amount of assets, stable coin assets, imported and placed in reserve, as shown in the prior video. So those are some of the rules that governs the network, and of course it's a privilege to be part of the network because the network node members, they do generate income for themselves when they process those blocks in terms of all the fees on the transactions in the block. And as economic activity increases, there will be a lot of resources. And in addition, they get to determine the direction of the network. And then for certain activities, which we're going to go into later, including the agricultural loans, in general loans on the network, agricultural produce financing, some of the other things that are online in form of smart contracts, they do also generate fees from that. So they're kind of like mini Visa, organizations, in the sense that they generate revenue first from transactions, but more than that, also from other kinds of activities, more than just transaction fees. So we'll take a look at the accounts that exist, for instance, and generate some transactions between them to see how the network members also generate revenue from transactions. We're going to use these last two accounts as customer accounts that's going to transact between each other, and we'll see how the transaction fees get processed on the network and get assigned to the processors. Okay, so here, these last two accounts ending with EE64 and D7FA, we will go and fund them. We will just use 10,000 Naira in each and generate payments, which is payments are really just transfers between two accounts. So we will do that now. The first thing we need to do is have the reserve itself have some Naira Okay, we do have reserve Naira and Toro as well, so we're ready to go. And so these two accounts, the customer accounts, they're going to bring some funds onto the network. It's going to be Naira, and then they'll convert those to Toros, and then they'll begin to participate in economic activity, which are basically transactions on the network. So first account, the EE64, it has nothing currently, and we're going to bring in to that account 10,000 Naira. Okay, it's in about 2 seconds. This is going to be processed, which is the mining we're talking about. One of the node members is taking those transactions and converting them into a block. So now that transaction is part of the network. At this point, the only processor we have is the foundation processor, network member. So we will bring in another 10,000 in here. Okay, so at this point, the off-chain reserve now has 225,000 because of the additional 20,000 that has been brought in by both of these accounts. So we will take those accounts now and convert the 20,000 in each of them to Toros. So we see this has 10,000. This account previously had 4.14 Naira from the prior video. Okay, so we're ready, and we will convert those amounts into Naira as explained before, into Toros as explained before. So that's 10,000. And this is being added to a block. And then for the second account, let's remember, just bringing in the reserve makes the gains on those. There are no transaction fees for that. That's just for the reserve. Transaction fees come from participating in economic activities such as making payments, transferring between accounts. Those incur fees, and those accrue to the miners in that situation. Okay, so we have done that. And now we'll update this so we can see what the balance is on our account. Let's take a look at the fees while that is going on. There's a fixed fee here, which is 1 Naira and 2.5% of percentage. I think it's the greater of the two amounts that's charged on this network. And this is part of the decision that's made by the governing council of foundation members. Okay, we'll go back to the dashboard. The actual fees that's important really is the setting, because the Naira has its own fee settings and the Toro has its own fee settings, as with the dollars. Technically, the Naira stablecoin that the customer has imported, they can transact with them, but this network provides a user interface for Toro transactions. So really, the Toros that are used to perform transactions. So we'll take a look at the Toro fees. It's pretty much set to the same thing. I'll go back to the dashboard and to see what is the net effect of the transactions that we just completed. So now the reserve has only 80,000 Toros left because 20,000 of it has been bought for Naira by 2 customers. So there's 20,000 in circulation in customer accounts. And the Naira now has 124 because it has been 20,000 of it has been sold to customers. So there is no more Naira except for the 14.14 that existed before in the customer account. And we'll see the same thing when we look in here. So reserve has 80,000 Toros and 125,000 Naira in total reserves, and customers have 10,000 Toros and another 10,000 Toros. That's 20,000 Toros and no Nairas. Okay, so the Naira gained from the 105,000 to 125,000. All right, so now these two customers are going to generate a payment between each other. These two customers will make this customer make a payment to this customer for steps, maybe for some goods or service. So this gentleman, this customer, Mr. A will, Mr. A, this was Mr. A. Mr. A will pay Mr. B. All right, so here on this page we only have we do have transfers as well. So transfer is really a payment from one account to an account. So we're going to make a payment from this account to this account, as we said. Let's assume they make it, they pay 1,000 Toros in transactions. Like I said, even the Naira, the stablecoin Naira, can be used as transactions on the network. Okay. In general, all of these activities are still backed by Toros in reserves, all right? No asset has been created out of thin air, out of nothing, or out of electrical computational power, right? So everything here so far is still done by real world backed assets. So these are still all stablecoin transactions. All right, so now something has happened. The reserve has gained 0.025 after those transactions, and this account made a payment of 10,000, but in addition, in fees of 2.5% has gone, which is 25 Toros, which represents 2.5% of 10,000, has gone to the reserve, and 975 of that and 1,000 of that has gone to the customer they paid. Now we will make a change to the parameters of the network and see what the difference would be based on the rules of the network. So in the rules of the network, because the commission was set as 0%, all the gains, transaction fees, went to the reserve. Now, if node members have said that, look, all the transaction fees should go to the network member that mined it, we will have a different result in terms of where the transaction fees go. So these are no different from transaction fees that, for instance, financial institutions has always charged when customers make transfers or payments between their accounts. So that is similar here. So the same thing is now that customer is going to make another payment. Okay, same customer. So he goes back and consumes the good or service. Not here. Peer-to-peer transfer. All right, we still have everything set. We're going to make another transfer. Still at the 2.5%. Remember, it's greater than between 1 Toros and 2.5% of the transaction. Those are also parameters that are set by the participants of the network. So we're going to check that now after updating this, since the transaction has been committed already. All right, so here after the transaction, the reserve did not gain anything, right? And the Naira still is the same. These were not Naira transactions. Okay, so this customer now has paid now another fee of 25,000. This customer simply just gets the payment coming to them. And the commission address, which is 7708, should have the amount. Okay, that account is not showing here, the commission address, but we're going to go see that in the wallets page. Let's go see that. I believe there is this wallet page. The not all accounts will show up in this dashboard. This is the dashboard for accounts that are managed by the network. Okay, we should go copy that address. Let's see if we can go copy that address, the commission address, because that's where the 25 Toros will have gone into. What we should also do is designate a different commission address as this one transactions. Okay, so we will copy the commission address from here. Okay, we can also check the balance from here. Let's choose other. I'll remove this 0x since it's already here. So there it is. So this commission address represents the account that transaction fees go to, and so this belongs to the member that mined the transaction. And so basically that is how the network works, and it's considered a circulation, not a reserve, because it does not belong to the reserve. It belongs to a specific member, which happens to be a commission, a foundation member, and that's why the reserve itself has this 80,025, but some 25 is also in circulation, belonging to the mining network member who processed a transaction just now, and the remainder is in customer accounts. All right, so that concludes this lesson, this quick demonstration or illustration, and a quick thought about the stablecoins that exist on the blockchain. Let's take a look at Tether, for instance, what their website looks like, in terms of talking about how stablecoin works. So here is Tether's account. Basically, it's digital money. It's dollar stablecoin. They take real world dollars and put them into an account, and they create blockchain dollars that can be spent in the cryptocurrency world. So you can buy Bitcoins for those. You can buy Ethereum for those. You can buy Toros for those. Essential. Really, if Toros are listed on networks on the exchanges where cryptocurrencies are, you'll be able to buy them using Tethers. And they have this this transparency update where they have proof that every Toros that they have brought into existence in the blockchain space exists in the real world. And so you can see that, and this is also something that the Toros will do, is to you'll see on the blockchain, this is all the Toros that exist, 80,025, and also Nairas that exist. This about testable coins, 125,000, and the total this amount in reserve. Let's see, the reserve right now is there's only the Naira reserve because nothing has been brought in dollars. And we are supposed to have off-chain 225,000, and so somewhere on the physical in the real world, fiat world, we're supposed to be able to show that this amount exists, and this is what Tether is trying to show here. Once it comes up, it's a little bit slow, but it's coming up. So, but what they have used is basically an auditor or attorney, a legal auditor, that's saying this is an amount of data they have in a bank one, they reviewed it, and bank two, they reviewed it, and this is the total actual US dollars that exist, and on their blockchain. So this is the amount certified in conjunction with receiving this, and so on. They're claiming that this is fully backed as of, but this is a long time. One thing that the Toro network will endeavor to do is to have this proof be something that's shown daily. This might involve just posting on the website in the validation part a statement of actual account from any bank that maintains the reserve this amount, and one will be able to see immediately what should be there. So this is what should be there, and compared to what is there. I think there is not here. There is. This is a Microsoft Word document. So this is what is the actual theta's that exist. So they have a little bit more in terms of the reserve. I do not know the accounting of how the reserve grew beyond, but the point is to be able to show that they have more. Now, one final word on stable coins. Okay, when a customer walks into a bank with physical cash, let's say $100, and they deposit that into their account, they give it to a teller or they use an ATM, and then electronically they now go and check their bank account and they see that now they have $100 more. What's really happened there is the $100 in actual cash that the bank takes and places in a vault at the end of the day is supposed to be the backing that provides the assets backing that $100 they now see electronically on their account. Now they see that amount in their account, they can walk into a store using their card, spend that amount. All right, and the recipient of that amount is able to go into a bank and pull out that $100 in cash. So essentially, electronically, whenever physical cash gets deposited, and electronic equivalent of it is placed in a ledger, it's a kind of a stable coin of activity on its most basic level, because the understanding is that that same $100 in physical cash can be pulled out at any time in exchange for that electronic amount that's been created, right? So which now becomes zero when it's pulled out. So that's no different from what's happening here, and it's basically on the global scale. So nothing new here creates assets that don't exist, as the cryptocurrency world has tended to do for assets created. This is just an extension of basic basic accounting principles replicated in digital form, with rules that are now more verifiable and more transparent, and you can see everything right there on the network. Okay, so basically this is the end of this presentation, and so to conclude, some of the decision making by foundation members as things like that, commissions, how much of it goes to the reserve and how much of it goes to network members, and so on. Thanks, and see you in the next video, where we are now going to start looking at things that really funds growth: agricultural produce financing, loans, and grants, and so on.